Hi everyone! As you can tell by the title of today's video, I am going to walk you through on how to tailor some jeans in the crotch. You heard me.
The crotch.
A lot of people experience a lot of material in these areas, and that's because of how the designer decided to make these jeans to accommodate for clients that have larger booties. So let me show you what I have pinned. So here we go. We have some Levi's, and as you can see, I have it pinned right here to see exactly how much of extra material is in the crotch, okay? So in order to fix this, we are going to go through the inseam and shorten that U shape, that part that goes from the belly button through the butt crack. We're going to shorten it. So that way there's not so much material in the area there. Now, will this completely solve the issue? Not always. Sometimes there's still a little bit of material still there because we didn't necessarily correct the issue through the seat, that U shape, that part that goes from here all the way to here. Okay, but regardless, this is going to help enough where my client is going to feel confident and comfortable in her jeans. Another thing that I'm going to do to these jeans is we're going to simply just add some darts here, and that's going to help with the gaping at the waist. Let's get started. So my first step really is to just take a few measurements. How much material is here? Now this one is saying 3/4 on a fold. This one is saying 1 inch on a fold, another inch, and about 7/8 of an inch on a fold. So that tells me that we're going to need roughly an inch. There are some top stitching details here. I'm going to start by removing that to prep this for the alteration. I was just working and this broke. So unfortunate. I just love a good chain stitch. I went ahead and loosened a few threads, and then just like that, it comes off. Let's hope this one doesn't break. Fun fact, when working with jeans, I like to use, oh my god, I want to stab myself. They're called the T-pins, number 28, 1 3/4 of an inch. And this is a box of about ½ a pound. And I don't need much more than this because I don't really get so much. But these are the ones I like to use for jeans during a fitting because they're very sharp and they also are very sturdy and strong, and they won't bend going into the jeans. And I just removed, I marked and removed those pins from here so that way I'm not having to worry about poking myself. I'm going to flip this inside out. I just took off all the top stitching. Okay, so I just found out that my microphone is no longer working and my seam ripper broke, so
What is happening?
I don't know. It's okay. We got to keep on moving. I'm not going to be mic'd up. But I did, however, get the threads off, the top stitching thread off. So now I have my seam allowance completely available. So I can go ahead and start marking and sewing. It's the next day and I had to stop where I was yesterday because of
there were reasons.
Anyways, let's just dive into what we have going on today. Don't mind the hair. It's a little crazy. We like it. At least that's what I'm telling myself. This is what it looks like right now. I do have it marked lightly with some white chalk, and everything is pinned to help with it from shifting. When I take it to the sewing machine, I'm going to start sewing from the center into the leg, from the center again into the leg. And then once everything looks like we're good to go, I will go at it again from one point over here to all the way to the other point. So it adds extra support with the extra threads rather than just one layer of threads, because the threads usually on jeans have the overlock or the chain stitch here, and that's to give it extra support and durability. And so I'm not going to do that on my overlock with the thickness that we have here on these jeans, but I can just go at it twice, one each direction and then one running it all the way through to give it that same durability. I'm going to start here at the center. For my thread, I am using a jean thread. It's what I call it. Actually, I don't even know if that's the right name. I'm pretty sure they're known as jean threads. But if you're at home sewing, you can also use the Coats and Clark's threads for their buttons, I think it is. That kind of thickness would do good for jeans. And you just need it for the top, and then the bottom, the bobbin, will have regular thread. So if you're sewing on a home machine or however, just bottom has regular, the top will have the thicker thread. You don't want to do both bobbin and top stitching for that thick thread because it can cause issues in the machine. I am stitching at a number 3 stitch length. And I'm kind of just pulling the material because we don't want it to bunch up and look like it's gathered. See, right above the original stitching. I don't see any pinches or tucks in the material, so we're good to move on. I'm going to go over the previous start stitches to help lock those stitches in place. If you don't sew, people would not believe how much finger strength you need for this kind of stuff, especially when you're working with jeans. Yeah, so to me, everything looks pretty darn good. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch over everything. Let's cut the loose thread here. Then we'll press it and take it to the serger and then do another top stitch for the outside of the jeans. So as we go over, we still don't want the same issue of it tucking or pinching. So continue to just help your material. Kind of like that. Okay. Wonderful, nice and thick. Wonderful. Okay, let's go ahead, give this a cut. I'm going to steam it and press it just to help soften the fibers so it runs through my home serger machine easier. And you want to leave about 1/2 inch of seam allowance or more. If you're afraid of like doing it wrong, I would say anywhere less than 1 inch for sure. Maybe like 3/4 the most, because you don't want it too thick where, you know, it's at a curve and it's going to feel weird and uncomfortable inside. Honestly, I would say 1/2 inch is the best. Alrighty. So I'm going to go steam this up and get this ready for the serger. I did serge it. I think it looks good. We stopped it where we needed to. And now we have to do the top stitching. So remember in the beginning when we had to take out those stitches, now it's time to put those stitches back in. This specific thread that I'm using, it's a golden brown color from A&E. Anyways, I think it's American and Eagle or something like that, but A&E for sure. We are going to start at the center here, and what I'm gonna do to help me out, because this is a lot of thickness, we're gonna go ahead, take it to the ironing board. I'm gonna hammer it down a little bit and beat it up from the inside with a meat pounder, I think they're called, and like that hammer to tenderize meat. I use it for my denim. Anyways, if you don't have that, I think also a rubber hammer or any kind of hammer, as long as you're like steaming it in between, so it really just helps with softening the denim. Okay, so let's go do that. Just finished taking in the crotch with you guys, and she looks good. Okay, now my client wants us, I don't know if you remember, but in the beginning she had pinching back here to help with the gaping, and it is a total of, let me see, actually 3 inches. Yeah, 3 inches. So when you're thinking of 3 inches, you're not obviously going to do a full 3 inch here and a full 3 inch here. Okay, but also we're not going to do 1.5 inch here and also 1.5 inch here. When you do darts, and in this case we're doing 2 darts to be symmetrical, we need that 3 inch to be divided up into 4 sides. This side here, this side, this side, this side, right? Because we're creating 2 darts. So that 3 inch will be divided up equally into 2 darts. In order to do that, you would need to divide it by 4 to get that perfect 3 inch taken at the waist with the 2 darts. Are you tracking with me? Okay. Now, I personally like the darts to be positioned very much so in the middle of the pocket, set at a diagonal, touching all the way up to the top of the waist here. We will need to remove this and reattach it later. So let's get our seam ripper and take it off. About it gently because we do want to reuse this. Now, if the client didn't want to go through the darts, then we would go through the sides of the jeans. And also that could be a lot more work and a little bit more expensive because there's more involved than just taking it in, right? It's like we're gonna have to reset a few things here. So the client here chose the more inexpensive route, which she thought would still be flattering to her. All right. So what I'm gonna do is just pin out this thing here down and out of my way. And now that I have everything here exposed inside the pant, I'm gonna grab my ruler and I wanna measure what the opening is. If not, I can also measure the outside stitching to the outside stitching. Whatever just makes sense for you guys, to be honest. Let's do outside to outside. That is 5 3/4. So that would be 2 7/8. Okay, and I'm just gonna match the ruler to the center of the pocket up to the mark of 2 7/8 and draw this is my fold line. We're not gonna fold this whole entire thing. This is just so I make sure I'm drawing exactly where I need to draw it. This is how I keep it all just looking good. Alrighty, so same thing here. Okay, we have our 2 lines. Now we're going to take that 3-inch measurement and we're going to divide that by 4 like I mentioned earlier. When we divide that by 4, it becomes 3/4. We're going to pay attention to where the dart stopped on her. So it stopped around above the pocket. Okay, so we're going to be stopping mostly above the pocket as well. Just grabbing a few pins. We are folding on the line we just drew, marked, whatever you want to say. Okay, so now I have my 2 folded lines. The next step is to press it nice and flat. So depending on the tools you're using for marking, this may remove your guide to the fold line. So like for me, it will remove my guide by the seam and the heat because that's just how the marking tool works for me. It gets removed with steam, but there are others that won't be removed with steam. So just pay attention to what you're using. However, it doesn't matter at this point. We're just pressing it just to help the fibers loosen up and prepping it for the sewing. Okay, do the other part as well, the other side, I mean. We're going to do the same thing to both sides. We're going to do 3/4 at the top. And we're going to stop it right around above the pockets. And just like that. All right, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine using that same golden brown thread. And we're going to top stitch this, or not top stitch, we're going to stitch right where we marked for both darts. And just like that, we finished the alterations for these Levi's. I know my client is going to be so excited because now the waist is no longer going to gape open. It's actually going to hug her waist nice, which is awesome. And we also fixed the issue with the seat, that long curve that goes around from the front to the back. We ended up shortening it here at the crotch through this seam here. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and just let me know what you think. If there's any other alterations you'd like me to teach you, I would love to know what you are all interested in. I just know I get a lot of jeans, a lot of dresses, and a lot of like slacks and suits. So if any of those things ring a bell that you know you need to learn alterations on, let me know and I will be glad to teach. All right, guys, until the next video, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, week, night, day, whatever it is. Enjoy it. Love y'all. God bless and take care. I almost forgot. I'm really trying to do this more often. So like, subscribe, and comment, and that will let me know to keep going. Okay, bye guys.